Good evening, councillors. I now open the ordinary council meeting on the 18th of April 2023 at 7:02 p.m. Could I please ask for Councillor Wilson to read out the acknowledgement?
I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and the Gadigal peoples who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today.
Thank you. Can I now please ask Councillor Burst to read the prayer?
Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the city of Randwick and Australia.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Before we begin, I'd just like to acknowledge on the 31st of March, one of the councillors brought to my attention, and in between meetings was the Trans Day of Visibility on the 31st of March, noting Randwick City Council's ongoing commitment to equality and the inclusion of those across our community, and I thank the councillor for drawing that to my attention. I now call for apologies and granting of leaves of absence. We have all councillors in attendance. However, I have received requests from Councillors Chappell and Councillors Hay to attend tonight's meeting by audio-visual link. Can I please have a mover and seconder to approve this? Moved Councillor Burst, seconded Councillor McCafferty. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Please note that Councillors Chappell and Hay are unable to attend in person due to being interstate for personal reasons and work commitments, respectively. The confirmation of the minutes of the 28th of March 2023. Can I please have somebody move and second the minutes of the 28th of March 2023? Moved Councillor Luxford, seconded Councillor Rosenfeld. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. We now move to declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest. Councillors, are there any declarations? I take it that there are no declarations. However, if at any point during the debate on any of the items a potential conflict, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, significant or non-significant, comes to mind, please call out and I will interrupt the proceedings in order to allow you to make that declaration. Thank you. Before we begin the public component of the meeting, I will read out the chairperson's announcement, beginning with the privacy warning. In respect of the Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of Clause 520 to 523 of Randwick City Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio-video recordings of meetings are prohibited without the express permission of Council, and a person may be expelled from a meeting for using or having used an audio-video recorder without the express authority of Council, including photographs. Announcement for speakers. All speakers who are addressing the council this evening will have a maximum of 4 minutes to put their case to the council with no extensions available. Presenters will be stopped at the 4-minute time mark. Councillors may however ask questions of presenters at the end of each public submission. Members of the public are under no obligation to answer those questions if they do not wish to. It is simply to assist the council in making its decision. First speaker of the evening, speaking on NR 2/23, Notice of Rescission Motion submitted by Councillors Olive, Pandolfini and Nielsen, Artificial Reef Sydney Dive Wreck. Speaking for the rescission motion, Mr. Mark England.
Mayor, councillors and council staff. My name is Mark England. I'm chair of the local Coogee precinct, and contrary to assertions made in this room, the Coogee Bay precinct totally opposes, unanimously opposes, the proposal to scuttle an ex-Navy ship 3 kilometres east of Wedding Cake Island in order to create a dive wreck. At our meeting last night, we confirmed our opposition for the following reasons. One, there will be no economic benefit to Coogee businesses, as commercial dive operators will be transporting divers from other areas to the site. And in fact, there aren't many divers involved, evidence shows from other wrecks. There will be visual and other pollution due to the boats of the various dive operators. There is no assessment of the leakage of residual toxic substances over time, and a quick Google can show that this does happen, contrary to advice at the previous meeting here in Council. There is no assessment of the impact of the ecosystem, including the aquatic reserve, and there has been no assessment of the impact on calving whales and their calves, whose annual migration pass close to the coast. Some 15,000 whales make the migration each year, and each year we have the mums or the cows and calves in the Bay of Coogee. There have been no assessment of any increase in shark activity. There is a major underwater cable nearby which could be impacted by any debris coming from the wreck. From what we can see, there's been no support for the proposal from local groups. Sinking old Navy ships is a costly exercise. The HMAS Adelaide was sunk off the Central Coast in 2011 at a cost of $8.5 million. The estimate for this Coogee proposal in 2015 was up to $10 million. 8 years on, the cost would far exceed this estimate. This and ongoing safety and storm repair costs would be significant imposts on the New South Wales taxpayer. Damage by severe storm events has resulted in significant damage to HMAS Adelaide and the shedding of large pieces of metal, for example 10 metres by 8 metres. The Department of Lands recently closed access for 8 months and spent $140,000 to make the wreck safe. We all remember the damage to Coogee in 2015 and 16. Any wreck off Coogee is likely to break up as climate change gives rise to more severe storm events. Pollution of our local beaches from wreckage due to wild seas is likely, as is the depositing of large pieces of the wreck on Wedding Cake Island. Will our council be liable for the removal of wreckage on local beaches and Wedding Cake Island? The poor quality of water at Coogee is an acknowledged problem. Finances should be focused on fixing water quality and not risking further pollution via the scuttling of a Navy vessel to provide a diving facility for a very small number of people. And as was indicated last night at Council, how would it look for a Labor government to be spending this sort of money for an elite international group of divers, as opposed to Western Sydney, that requires a lot of funding for all sorts of infrastructure requirements. And not only that, our own water and sewerage, stormwater and sewerage needs are great, and there's only a small amount of money that's been put aside in comparison to the costs associated with this wreck to fix that major problem, which really does require far greater sums of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Olive, you have a question.
Yes, thanks very much for your presentation, Mark. People who are proposing the dive wreck gave a presentation to the Coogee Precinct meeting 8 years ago. You were at that meeting. Can you explain what happened in the room?
Yes, and Michael, thank you for raising that issue. In fact, we were informed here in this room by the people proposing the dive wreck that it was some 5 years ago and the precinct supported it. Now, I find that appalling, that the precinct should be misrepresented in this way to council. The council should be making a decision on such a major issue as this, a financial major outlay as this, an embarrassment to Coogee really, when in fact it's not true. It's not true. 8 years ago there was a presentation made, there was no proposal from council, and so why should we make a resolution? We thought, well, that'll go away. I mean, who would support some daft idea like that? And so we just let it go. And here we have, here in this very room, these proposers I call it an outright lie, stating that the Coogee precinct supported it. It's not true. It is not true. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions of the Speaker? There being no further questions of the Speaker, I will now move. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call speaking against the notice of rescission motion, Mr. Sam Baxter, representing the Gordons Bay Scuba Diving Club.
So, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Sam Baxter. I'm the president of the Gordons Bay Scuba Diving Club. My colleague Matthew Kempton, last council meeting, presented our case and highlighted all the benefits. I'm not going to go through all those again, but I will just remind this group, the council, that the four major benefits are increase in marine life. This is a fantastic ecological project. There are recreational benefits for the whole community, for Randwick, for Sydney, for New South Wales, for snorkelers and divers who can participate in that. There's an opportunity for marine research. We have commitments for support from the Sydney Institute of Marine Science, which, if you're not aware, is an amalgamation of all the marine science departments in the Sydney universities. They're very keen to be able to conduct research on this. And the economic benefit both to Coogee, Randwick and New South Wales that will bring primarily through tourism. So I'm going to use my remaining time to counter some factual errors that have been made at previous conversations and in the media that we've seen in the last few days. One was that the proposal is not environmentally sound. It is. We have the Professor of Marine Ecology at the University of New South Wales, Ian Suthers, as an independent advisor to our committee. He's given us ticks of approval right through our process. We have 30 scientific reports that demonstrate that artificial reefs increase the marine life and create no damage from that. And we're all divers. That's what we do. We spend our time in the water. We enjoy the marine life, we enjoy the water. We would not be putting anything into the water that was going to be harmful to the environment. The second point is that some statements the HMS Adelaide has broken up and the council have been responsible for clearing off that damage. That's not true. We haven't seen any evidence of that. All the reports and information we have, yes, there's been some parts broken off the Adelaide, but they've remained in the vicinity of the ship. The council, the Central Coast Council, has expended no cost in any clean-up activity in the 8 years since it's been, the Adelaide has been in place. Also, I'd like to make clear that we're not asking Randwick Council for funds. This is a New South Wales government. Ever since we kicked this project off over 10 years ago, we've made it very clear this is a New South Wales government funded project, and we're asking the New South Wales government to fund it. And it's not only spending money, it's actually an investment for the New South Wales government. The cost we estimate will be in the region of $6 to $10 million. Depends what ship we get. That's the primary cost, and we don't know that just yet. But the returns to the New South Wales economy are in the order of 12 million to 48 million over the first 5 years, and will continue at a high level years thereafter. And these vessels can have a life of 100 years with a very low ongoing maintenance cost. There's a point made there's no economic benefits to Randwick. Let me just explain the benefits to Randwick and Coogee community. On the day of the event, it will be a huge occasion. There'll be something like, there were 10,000 visitors in the Central Coast watching the ship being sunk. It's a great, exciting day. We'd estimate at least that, probably more. So a one-off event for Randwick on Coogee in terms of the number of visitors arriving to watch that. Secondly, that ongoing, people will research the Coogee dive wreck. They'll look for accommodation in Coogee. That will be their starting point. As regards community support, it's been mentioned that we don't have community support. We've got over 4,000 signatures on our petition from the community. We've presented at the Spot Festival, the Coogee Family Fun Day, the Eco Fair. We've had stalls over 3 times to each of those. We've had stalls set up on the Randwick to Coogee walk. We've presented to the Coastal Committee. We've presented to a large number of other groups, and I've personally been at nearly all of those, and I can confirm we have overwhelming support from all of those. And the environmental impact statement, we certainly want to do that, but that should not be a reason for holding up that. The environmental impact statement will go ahead. If there's any negative feedback from that, then the project will be cancelled. So in terms of the environmental impact statement, yes, let's make it happen. We're very keen. Marjorie O'Neill's very keen to make that happen. So let's make it go. So thank you for the time. I'm happy to take any questions on that. Yes.
Councillor Pandafini, your question.
Thanks for coming in. I just had a question regarding the economic benefit. If it's 4 kilometres out from
Yes.
Coogee, how would people wouldn't be going direct from Coogee
No,
in
they
small
wouldn't. No.
boats, would they? Out
No.
to the
Absolutely. So the boats will go from either Sydney Harbour or from Botany Bay. There's well-established dive boat and other boat wharf facilities at those. We are not proposing to build any or request any infrastructure be built at Coogee for boat access. It's impractical to access the boat from the shore. 4 kilometre swim in dive gear, that's virtually impossible. So the boat access would be from Sydney Harbour or Botany Bay. So in terms of direct access to that's how that will happen. And I'll just recap, I think, what I said a little bit earlier, that whilst there might not be a huge amount of economic benefit from the boats themselves, which are outside the area, to the Coogee Randwick community, we see the benefit coming from the one-off event of the day and from the ongoing tourists who will base themselves in Coogee so they can dive the Coogee dive wreck. Does that answer your question? Thanks.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any further questions? There being no further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Baxter. For members of the public, we will now move down the agenda of the business paper and deal with the items in that order. The first item on the business paper is mayoral minutes, MM12/2223, financial assistance and donations, March to April 2023, page 1. Councillors, I take the mayoral minute as read and commend it to the floor, noting the $400 donations to Cape Banks Family History Society and 400 donations of council plants from the nursery to be funded to the Maroubra Neighbourhood Children's Centre Cooperative Fundraising Raffle. There is a hand up from Councillor Olive. Councillor Olive.
Yes, I've got a question about process here. This is not to do with the worthiness of these particular donations at all, but it's about, sort of the, we know that the mayoral contingency fund from which this money, sort of could have come from is running about $70,000 over budget. And this is just going to add, to that sum. Monies which are within the budget, we know the source of those funds, but monies that run over the budget, we are unaware of the source of those funds. So going to the Code of Meeting Practice, which says, point 9.10, clause 9.10, if a mayoral minute that has a financial cost is adopted without the identification of funding source, the council must call for a report from the General Manager outlining the funding options for implementation of the resolution. No funds are to be expended on the implementation of the motion until a decision is made on the funding source, unless council resolves that the matter is of great urgency. To the relevant officer or to the General Manager, how do you interpret that particular clause with respect to this mayoral minute, and how do you advise council?
To the Director of Corporate Services.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Because this is a non-material amount of money, we would reconcile this amount through the quarterly budget review process.
Thank you.
So,
is that a follow-up question, Councillor Olive?
I don't think that answered the question. That was, how do you interpret?
So, Councillor Olive, could you please turn your microphone on?
How do you interpret that clause, and what is your recommendation with respect to the mayoral minute with that clause in mind?
Through to the relevant officers, do you have any supplementary information which you wish to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, you're correct. So at the next council meeting, when we do mayoral minutes, I'll identify the funding source for this, which will outline that it will come from the third quarter review, the council's budget.
So as your recommendation now is to just carry on as is that the recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a matter for the council laws. You're quite correct in your interpretation of the code of meeting practice, but there's a requirement up to the council laws if they wish to do that. My understanding that has been the practice around this chamber for a number of years. And in saying that, at the next time a mirror minute comes up, I'll identify the funding source.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any further comments or questions? Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just taking a look myself at this, and what I can also see is, and just correct me if I'm wrong, no funds are to be expended on the implementation of this motion until a decision is made on funding source. So to me, it seems that we do continue to carry on and we'll find a funding source out. Is that correct?
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If that's the council adopts this tonight, that's what will happen. As I said, from moving forward, mirror minutes that come back to the council, I'll inspect the mayor, make sure there's a funding source identified.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I will now put the mayoral minute. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to MM 13/23, updating Randwick City Council's Urban Elements Design Manual. Councillors, I take it that you have read the mayoral minute, the intentions behind it. I'm happy to answer any questions if you would like. Otherwise, I commend the mayoral minute to the floor. Are there any speakers? There being no speakers, I will now put the mayoral minute. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, is there any urgent business? Councillor Olive.
Yes, I have urgent business.
So, Councillor Olive, before you begin, could you please outline what it is that you seek to move as urgent business first, and then please explain to the council why it is to be considered as urgent. The process then is that we will then ask councillors to determine whether or not it is considered urgent. At that point, the substantive debate on the motion will or will not occur. I also need to rule on the urgency as well separately to that. Councillor Olive, please continue.
Yes, this is urgent that Council rescind the resolution to fly the Israeli flag at the Randwick Town Hall on the 26th of April 2023 because we can't wait till the next meeting to stop this. This will happen in the intervening period, so therefore it's urgent, and it's urgent on for the fact that we have the flying of this flag will cause great hurt to members of the local community, to residents, and that's evidenced by the fact that we have, sort of many of those that are kind of outraged and unhappy that this flag will be flying on the 26th here with us tonight. There were more outside protesting this particular move. I think that we saw when we voted in support for the Ukrainian flag, we did that as a symbol. We did that as a symbol because we were saying that we didn't believe that it was just that Russia invaded Ukraine. We fly this flag on the 26th as a symbol as well.
Sorry, just hold on. Thank you. I've received a point of order. I'd like to go to Councillor Hamilton to outline in the Code of Meeting Practice what is out of order.
Point of order. Councillor Olive continued to further push into the debate, and you clearly outlined the process that we're going to vote on the urgency of the matter first.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. I uphold the point of order, and I would kindly recommend that Councillor Olive return to the reasons as to why this is considered as urgent rather than the substantive debate.
I think that the reasons why it's urgent in a moral sense are before us and sort of the representation of the meeting. But I think it's urgent, as I said before, that we can't bring it up at the next meeting. So we have to deal with it at this meeting because it's going to happen in the intervening period. So this is something we have to deal with right now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Olive. Thank you. I will now call a vote as to whether or not Council considers this as urgent business. All those in favour of considering it as urgent business? There hasn't been a call for a division, is there?
Yep.
Okay, there is a call for a division. Okay, all those, so you can now put down your hands. All those in favour of considering the matter as urgent business, please raise your hand. Okay, we have Councillor Pandolfini, Nielsen, Veach, Chappell, Olive and Wilson. All those against? We have Councillor Ham. Thank you. Just for 1 second, I need to do it. We have Councillor Hamilton. Sorry. Thank you. I actually need to call the vote. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Hay, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, Councillor D'Souza, and the Mayor. I declare the urgency motion lost. Thank you very much to members of the public. I'd remind you that meetings are to proceed as is and to continue in silence. There is no further business as it relates to this. You're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting if you so choose. That is the conclusion of the matter. Okay. Thank you very much. The decision has been made. I have to conduct the meeting according to the code of meeting practice. I understand that the matter is now done. I'm allowing you to leave. I've held the meeting. Thank you very much.
We advise you to stay on the right side of history. Israeli government has so many shame. Stand on the right side of history. Next time. We'll be back. Good luck with the driving thing.
Okay. Thank you, councillors. We will now continue down the remainder of the agenda. Okay. So we now deal with staff reports. Councillors, as I am looking down at the agenda, if you wish to challenge an item, could you please call out? As I can't see you. For those who are joining via audio-visual link, could you do the same? I will allow a greater latitude because you are joining in that way if you are missed. Okay, GM4/23 draft 2023 and 2024 operational plan and budget is challenged by Councillor Veach. CP7/23 variation to...
Yes, please.
Councillor Chappell. CP8
I'll challenge CP8.
I heard you guys at an identical time. Councillor Luxford has challenged it. It was very, very close. Well done. I will happily take you as the seconder, Councillor Hay. CC6/23 feasibility of live streaming of the Matildas 2023. I heard Councillor Rosenfeld. Oh, CS13/ challenged by Councillor Luxford. Thank you. I wrote Councillor Luxford for the one above. CC6/23 feasibility of that was challenged by Councillor Rosenfeld. He's really doing credit to that end of that particular seat of the horseshoe in relation to challenging. I didn't used to sit there. CC6/23 feasibility of live screenings. No, sorry. McKean Street is Pandolfini. Okay, thank you. No, actually, that's a good question. Are there any? No, there are no unchallenged items. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. There being no unchallenged items, we now move to GM4 Councillors, do we need to take a break? I don't think so. We're doing pretty well for time. GM 4/23 draft 2023-2024 operational plan and budget challenged by Councillor Veach. Could you please outline what it is that you are moving?
I was just going to ask if you could make that same announcement about the fact that the artificial reef
Yes, I am happy to do that. For those who have joined for the artificial reef, so I wasn't as direct in terms of saying it. We are moving down the agenda on the business paper. There are business papers which are outside. If you are waiting for the artificial wreath, it is currently the last item on the agenda. Okay, thank you. Councillor Veach, GM 4/23 draft operational plan and budget. Could you please outline to the meeting what it is that you are moving, and then I will call for a seconder.
Yes, I'll be moving this in an amended fashion. I have sent through the amendments to Mr. Kelly. There's about 5 amendments, and if possible, I'd like to go to the first one and then foreshadow the others.
Sorry, I can't quite hear that.
Can you hear me, Councillor Chappell? I'll have to.
Can I make a suggestion to Councillor Veach, if that's okay? The difficulty in dealing with it in this matter is you can only move one thing at one particular time. And so if you're seeking to foreshadow amendments to something, it might be better to get somebody else to actually move it and then to move the amendments in various ways. Can I get some advice from the General Manager? I tend to think that is a far easier way in which to progress it rather than moving it in amended fashion and trying to incorporate certain elements at a time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For efficiency, it would be, but Councillor Veach is in her right to move this way.
Okay, that's fine. Can you just confirm exactly how you're moving? Are you moving them then in globo or one by one?
One by one.
Can she do that? Okay.
So just to be clear, there will be more amendments moved to this item. I've got some as well.
Okay.
Do I need to foreshadow them? Like, can they just be moved once it's amended?
It's all right. They can. Councillor Veach, could you please outline what it is that you are moving?
I just would be helpful if we can. There's just something wrong with the screen, unfortunately. Benefit while we're resolving the screen. The first amendment relates to, I'm looking at the attachment, which is the draft operational plan and budget. So it's this page here, and the first one is on page 54, and I'm referring to A11.3. But I just can't read this. If those of you on this side are able to turn around, you might be able to see it. Oh, here we go. Even I can read. So at the moment, we're just looking at page 54, A11.3, which relates to the housing strategy. Look, it was just a bit odd that A11.3.2 was advocating for studio or one-bedroom apartments in proponent-led site-specific.
Sorry, I can't hear Councillor Veach.
Planning proposals. I'm sorry, Councillor Chappell. I'm trying to talk into the microphone, so I'm not sure.
That's okay. Someone else was speaking at the same time, live in the room.
Councillor Luxford, Councillor Chappell is having difficulty following the debate because of conversation around the horseshoe. If all councillors could please keep conversations to a minimum unless you're on your feet addressing the meeting.
So I'm seeking to amend A11.3.2, which is in this column here, if you can see that. Because we've just kind of spent a number of years, in fact, kind of working through our LEP, which, you know, should be coming back quite soon. And I'm not sure why we would be advocating for proponent-led site-specific planning proposals. So I'm seeking to amend that to investigate opportunities to increase the supply of public and affordable housing for single and multi-person households by 2025. That is my amendment. I understand through attending, actually even just last night, the Action for Public Housing group, which has quite a lot of people in public housing. A lot of the new public housing that's being proposed to be built is single unit dwellings. And actually there's a lot of families who are on the public housing list, and their belief is that actually there won't be enough new public housing supply to accommodate the many families in need of public housing. So I think it's appropriate to advocate for both single and multi-person households.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Olive. Is there any debate on the matter? There is a question from Councillor Nielsen.
Through your mayor, to the relevant council officer, can you remind me, the relevant officer, please, why we would have specifically chosen this wording?
Through to the Director of City Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The wording is really intended to advocate for a proportion of studio and one-bedroom units. It's not intending that it advocate for proponent-led site-specific planning proposals. Certainly, there may be site-specific planning proposals that would be lodged in the future, and in this instance, I'm thinking perhaps in some of our Land and Housing Corporation areas where they have larger sites and may propose a planning proposal and being a state-led planning proposal. So it was sort of identified in those circumstances that council would still want to ensure that there is a proportion of single household type of development within those particular proposals. So that was the intent behind that. So I'm open to the wording changing in relation to advocating and the references to site-specific planning proposals perhaps being deleted and just referring to planning proposals.
So then what would be your recommendation for appropriate wording?
Through to the Director of City Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That it would be to ensure that there is a proportion of studio and one-bedroom apartments in any planning proposals.
Thank you. Councillor Burst.
Through the relevant officer, could you just, proponent-led, what does it actually mean?
Through to the Director of City Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is a planning proposal which is submitted by the owner of land or someone on their behalf. It's not a planning proposal that council resolves to prepare and to amend its LEP with.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers or questions on the proposed amendment? There being no further speakers, I will now put it. All those in favour of the inclusion of this? Aye. All those against? No. Okay, there's been a call for a division. All those in... You can foreshadow an amendment, but I still need to call for a division. No, just that you're going to foreshadow an amendment, and that's fine, because we'll then get to it. So that's fine. All those... Okay, all right. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Pandafini, Councillor Veach, Councillor Chappell, okay, Councillor Olive, Councillor Said, and the Mayor, as well as Councillor Nielsen. Okay, thank you. All those against, please raise. And Councillor D'Souza, sorry, all those against. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Hay, can I confirm that you're voting against? Councillor Hay, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Wilson, and Councillor Burst. I declare the amendment carried. Thank you. Councillor Veach, could you please outline your next proposed amendment?
Thank you. Sorry, I just need to, it's on page 72. A20.5 and A25.1, deleting those two items relating to the investigation of further synthetic turf fields. Councillors, we've got a number of synthetic turf fields already. There are really viable alternatives in terms of improving our natural turf fields. Most people much prefer to play on them, and they can really affect the drainage in adjacent areas. They cost a huge amount of money, and we received some reports looking at our future asset management plans as part of our long-term financial plan late last year, where a number of these were outlined. I mean, one of them was about $2.5 million. They do cost a lot of money. It's a lot cheaper to actually just improve our existing turf fields with good drainage and composting and water. And it's much safer. So I don't think we need any more synthetic turf fields, and so I'd urge you to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Pandolfini. For the councillors who are joining online, I can't actually see you at present, so you may have to call out. Councillor Pandolfini is the seconder to the amendment.
I reserve my right.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the amendment? There being no further speakers, I will now put the amendment. All those in favour of the deletion of synthetic turf fields moved by Councillor Veach, raise your hand. All those against, I declare that lost. Thank you. We now move to the next proposed amendment by Councillor Veach.
Thank you very much. This one is on page 82.
Do I have a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Pandolfini. Thank you, Councillor Veach.
Look, this is literally, if you go down to the bottom, this relates to the Disability Action Plan. We voted on this at the end, sort of quite late last year. It was quite a detailed report, and also councillors agreed to quite a number of amendments to increase accessibility for disabled people around our LGA. I think it would be really appropriate at this instance for when this draft operational plan and budget goes on exhibition to actually detail what elements of the Disability Action Plan are proposed to be delivered on in the next financial year. That will give people with access needs the opportunity to comment during the exhibition process, perhaps make suggestions or suggest alternatives, or say yes, we really need this, and kind of give their reassurance that the proposed action is something they support. I just don't think this is enough. There's no detail here whatsoever. So I would implore councillors to support this amendment so we can give those in our community who would be using these facilities the opportunity to see them and make submissions as part of the exhibition process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pandolfini is the seconder.
I reserve my right.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further question from Councillor Nielsen.
I didn't quite follow what Councillor Veach said in terms of what are you wanting people to do while it's out on exhibition, or what's the point? Sorry, Councillor Veach.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Councillor Nielsen.
Okay, thank you.
That's inaudible.
For some reason, it appears that those who are joining via audio-visual link are having trouble hearing. If you could please speak clearly into your microphones when speaking, that'd be greatly appreciated, and all conversation to be kept to a minimum around the horseshoe. Thank you. Councillor Veach.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to respond to Councillor Nielsen's question, we have a lot of, the draft operational plan will detail lots of different projects that council is planning to undertake during the next financial year. But, we've got around 17 or 20% of people in our LGA who identifies who have a disability. There's not a lot of detail on how a lot of our other projects will kind of improve accessibility. And so I think given that we've just kind of voted on that disability action plan literally only a few months ago, it would be great even if there was just a basic list included as part of this exhibition process, so we can actually see how we're delivering on this plan and giving people a chance to comment if they wish to do so.
Thank you. I have a hand up from Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had the same question or similar question to Councillor Nelson and Councillor Veitch. You've fixed it up, but I think the wording should be include details on all planned actions. Is that correct? You want to include disability or accessibility on other action plans. Is that right?
Look, I'm just seeing what actions they want to. It says deliver. The wording that's included in the report says deliver and report on actions identified in the Disability Inclusion Action Plan. I guess we could add an extra little bit saying, and I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying. Like you're saying, do we want to see? Well, I'm just saying I want to see what they're planning to, which elements of the Disability Action Plan they're intending to deliver in this financial year as part of this operational plan and budget. That's all it is, because it's not. There's no detail.
Thank you. If you're going to make a comment, I'm going to go to Councillor Pandolfini as the seconder. Councillor Pandolfini, do you wish to speak to it?
I don't.
No. Councillor Hamilton, the floor is yours. Sorry. Oh, I've gone a few meetings without. That's about my apologies. My apologies.
Our hair's the same colour, we're the same height.
My sincere
I
apologies.
hope I'm speaking
Councillor
clearly
Nielsen.
into the microphone, everybody. I can totally see where Councillor Veitch is coming from, but I think the wording is a little bit tricky. I'm just wondering whether this is something perhaps we can pick up on and finalise more appropriate wording after it's been out on community consultation, perhaps?
No, clarify one thing.
Yeah, I'm happy for her to clarify. Yeah.
Point of clarification for Councillor Veitch.
So I should have noted this is not deleting the point that's in there. It's just it should just be a comma. So it's clearly referring to the projects. You know, like you could change that to actions, if that's.
So then read it out then, as it would be.
So it would be deliver and report on actions identified in the Disability Inclusion Action Plan, including details of the actions. Would that be better? We can change projects to actions, their planning or completion status and funds expended.
Okay,
So change projects to.
I think that sounds much better
So,
myself, yeah.
Mr. Kelly, if you wouldn't mind amending the word projects there to actions. Thank you.
So I think, so hold on. Thank you. Two things. One, okay, we're good? All right. So hold on. Councillor Burst is, I believe, calling for a point of clarification. Is that right? Point of clarification, Councillor Burst.
Through the relevant officer, if you're going to deliver and report on actions identified in the DIAP, won't that include all the details of any planned actions?
Through to the relevant officer.
Thanks, Matt. Yes, it will. I think Councillor Veitch is trying to make sure that it's explicit in the actual action that we do to bring back to the council.
Is the wording then clear enough, Mr. General Manager?
Okay. What I will do is I will go to Councillor Veitch just in regards to clarify her intent. I will then go to the General Manager just to confirm his interpretation as well, and if required, any suggested amendments in order to clarify it for the meeting. Councillor Veitch, could you please outline what it is that you're seeking to move?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's literally just to include the details of the intended actions in the draft operational plan and budget as exhibited, so people can see it. So that was the intention, to actually have those included in the in the draft that's going to be exhibited.
Thank you. There'll be just a moment pause while the officers seek some clarification. Through to the relevant officer as a commentary on the proposed motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, councillors, my understanding is that the plan that the staff have for the next year in bringing these actions into place, Councillor Veitch would like us to put that in the exhibited operational plan that goes out for the community to comment on right now. The staff have advised me that they believe they have that information. If they have that information, yes, we can do that. If they don't, then I need to bring something back to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And are there any further speakers, points of clarification, questions? Or are we happy to put it? Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Your next amendment, 6.4, Our Community, Our Future program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, again, this was something that came through. This is something the previous council voted on in February 2018. There are quite a number of projects that were endorsed as part of, it's right at the end, it's pretty much the second last page. And, you know, I think some of I've literally lost track of, you know, there was probably about a dozen, I can't recall now. That's why it would be good to just see the list of those projects that council endorsed back in 2018. And, you know, there was a rate increase and, you know, and borrowings. I believe, you know, some of those projects are almost complete, others haven't commenced yet. And just to get a list of those projects, see what their status is in terms of, are they still in the planning phase, have they been completed, or are they halfway through, and how much money has been spent. Thank you. I believe that's actually been reported in previous operational plans and budgets, and it's been left out this time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Olive. Okay, Councillor Olive, do you wish to speak to it? No. Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I'll now put the amendment. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. The last one is not numbered. Draft fees and charges. Councillor Veitch, could you please outline what it is that you are moving?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Look, City of Sydney has almost completed a trial of a 12-month trial of waiving fees for some of their halls. I understand it's really literally only come up to about $18,000. It's mostly when people just, a small community group, it could be a group of residents who want to have a get together, you know, maybe have a meeting. And just kind of, we've had motions and discussions about trying to increase community access to our halls for quite a number of years yet, and it's still quite difficult for people who, it might be difficult to get that money together, even though it might only be a small amount. And so it's like, let's just have a trial. Let's try and increase, because we've seen that there's actually really low use of a lot of our halls. Some, such as the Kensington Community Centre, are really well utilised. It's a beautiful new hall and a beautiful park. Others are just sort of sitting there. They're hardly ever used. Let's try and actually increase their use. Let people know that they're there. There's a cap on expenditure. They have to meet the eligibility criteria. Why not give this a try and see if we can increase the use of our local halls and actually increase the accessibility, because anyone can go down to any of our local parks or playgrounds or sports fields or beaches, but actually for a lot of people it's more helpful. Sometimes you need a meeting room, sometimes you need an inside space, and I don't see why there's this sort of demarcation between our buildings and outdoor spaces. We should be able to access both just as easily. It costs money to maintain our parks, maintain our beaches, but we can use those for free. Why can't we get in and use our halls to have a meeting or whatever it is we need to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nielsen as the seconder.
Just be very brief to say I think it's a good idea and fully recommend it to all our councillors that we give this a trial, and hopefully it works.
Thank you. I have a hand up from Councillor Sid.
Mr. Mayor, I don't oppose it at all, but I actually think that and I can't remember it word for word, but I actually put a motion about this about 2 months ago. It's copying it.
Council,
so it is in there, and I just want to just say too that you can't go by the Sydney City one, because I did look it up, and that was just for COVID, and it ends, and they do exactly what we do. They waive fees exactly the same way we do it. But my motion was to exactly this, that not-for-profits and anyone else who would like to use the halls gets a big discount or even gets it for free. So if you look up that motion, I think it was going to be added to the Community Connects. But anyway, just...
Not necessary. Thank you, councillors. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Is there any further debate on the motion as amended?
Yes, please.
Okay, there is. I've seen a hand up from Councillor Chappell. I'll then go to Councillor Olive. Councillor Chappell.
So I have one question and then I have two amendments that I've foreshadowed and sent through. What order would you like me to do that in?
Councillor Chappell, could you please ask your question?
Question. Okay, so the question is just regarding page 70 of the document, when we're talking about our open space and recreation strategy. Items A19.3 and 4 are both set to commence in 24-25. The first of those is continuing to advocate for public access to the headland at Malabar Rifle Range, and I would love to hear from a council officer why that is not an ongoing activity, particularly with a new federal government. And likewise, 19.4, identifying opportunities for acquisition or repurposing of land for open space, looks like something we should just be doing all the time. So I'm not sure why that is put down the road for a year.
Thank you. Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to A19.4, that item is listed in a program of works for 24-25 in light of the current workload as a result of the open space recreational needs strategy. Can I just clarify? Was the first one about A19.3 Anzac Parade? Anzac Rifle Range. So discussions were facilitated last year in regards to public access for the rifle range after there was temporary closures made as a result of some unfortunate dog incidents. So council will continue to advocate, but I do note public access currently does remain on that particular site.
Sorry, and then just further to that, to the relevant officer, I understood we were having some meetings with the rifle range people about access and that a new one of those was due to be scheduled shortly. So I just think we're probably already doing this, so it seems...
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. As mentioned, the last meetings that were facilitated with the Rifle Range Association in that, and the government in that regard was in relation to the cut-off of the site to the public from the dog incidents, and then the Rifle Association, following some works conducted on their land, reopened to public access outside of shooting days.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Clark.
you.
I'd then like...
Councillor Chappell.
Just to move my first amendment, which is very minor, on page 42, item A3.1, which is talking about our very good and appropriate targets about reducing waste generation. We give an example in there of waste streams we might be targeting. We talk about single-use plastics. I'd just like that to also to reference soft plastics. I think when we put this plan out on exhibition, our residents would like to see that we're seriously engaging with soft plastics. I'm sure the sustainability team are already doing this work. It's just to articulate it.
Thank you. Through to the relevant officer. So was it a question?
No, it was a question, wasn't it? I think it was just a comment.
It's mainly just an amendment.
That's a question.
Thank you. All right. Do you have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Veitch. Okay, thank you. Councillor Veitch is the seconder. No, are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Councillor Chappell, the second of your amendments.
Thank you. So this is on page 78 of the plan. It's in the section where we are talking about making sure our community love the outdoor facilities we're making. And it's something I think we've spoken about a few times. It's just seeking to put in that when we're building this new stuff, particularly playgrounds and things like that, that we look for opportunities to make them reflective of the local area, including, for instance, First Nations history, flora, fauna relevant to our area, or community interest issues that may be relevant. I've put in there a 25% target. I think that's very modest considering what this could look like. It could look as simple as, in an area where you're building a playground near an ocean, you put some aquatic themed things that reflect our animals down there. In one with an area with a large First Nations community, you consult with the community to put in names or signage that is relevant to that community.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor De Souza. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I will now put the amendment. All those in favour? All those against? Declare the amendment carried. Thank you. Are there any further amendments? Councillor Olive, could you please outline what it is that you are seeking to move?
Yes, Mr. Kelly, if you could bring that up, please. This is just a single amendment to the actual recommendation. It's a Part D, which goes, Council receive a briefing on the finances of the Coogee Beach stormwater diversion and related projects sometime before the 29th of May. It's the 29th of May because the budget goes on exhibition and that's the final date. So because it will come back to council, it gives us some time to consider what we've been briefed, the briefing that we received. The reason for doing this is that, as it says on page 171, that under Coogee Beach stormwater diversion, there's an amount budgeted of $350,000 to that. And initially we were told that that was stormwater harvesting. Then we were told that it was for the Coogee Beach stormwater diversion project, and just before coming here, it went back to stormwater harvesting. The Coogee Beach stormwater diversion project was supposed to be funded from a state government grant, and spending for that would occur based on milestones met. The Coogee Beach Stormwater Quality Working Group has received briefings on a whole range of things, but not necessarily on the spending or budgeting or where that's up to, the milestones, and and where council were not initially expected to be spending any money on this, but if I was to have a guess, that council will be asked to to put money forward on this. I'm not clear whether this is money which is separate from that or part of that, even though I did receive that email. I haven't gone through that thoroughly, and I don't think that other councillors here know, but that might be coming down the pipeline. And so I don't think that we can actually put this $350,000 in the budget there if that commits us or ties us in any way to that sum without knowing exactly what we're being committed to or tied to. So, so that's why I think that we should have a briefing before the end of the exhibition period.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Pandolfini. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the motion as amended now? No, there being no further speakers, I will now call on Councillor Veach to close the debate.
I reserve my right.
Thank you. I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Despite the interesting way that we went about that, I still think it's the fastest we've ever dealt with the operational plan and budget. CP7/23, variation to development standards under clause 4.6, the 1st of November 2022 to the 27th of March 2023, challenged by Councillor Chappell. Councillor Chappell, could you please outline what it is that you have moved, or you're seeking to move?
Actually, I don't want to move it. I just wanted to speak to it.
Okay, thank you. Can I
Someone
have a
else wants
mover
to
of the
move,
motion,
that's
please?
fine.
Moved, Councillor Hamilton. I'm assuming you're moving the recommendation on the business paper?
That is correct.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rosenfeld is the seconder. Thank you very much. Councillor Chappell, your question?
I mainly just wanted to make a very brief comment on it, which I think we should be very cautious where things are being approved under delegation, where they are exceeding existing controls. And in particular, I refer to the item on page 19, which is the December 2022 DA at 30 to 36 Dangar Street. One of the justifications for improving this development going even further over height was that it was already over height, which I think is just a really appalling precedent and way to go about business. I accept that the increase is less than a metre, but it is also quite extraordinary that once a building is already about double what that area is allowed to be, we just keep signing off under delegation for it to put more things up to go higher. I think once a development goes over, they should be required to stay within that envelope. And likewise, I just note some of the justification on the January 2023 approval on a two-storey dwelling is considered justified because it'll look like a two-storey dwelling from the street, even though it's over height, because they've dug an extra floor below. And I don't think we want to be encouraging more excavating underneath dwellings in our area. We've seen in surrounding areas like Wallara the absolutely catastrophic situation where everybody's excavating, everything's dewatering, everything's destabilising. You know, I've got two neighbours whose houses have cracked because of some excavating in the area. I think we should be really, really cautious about all of this happening under delegation. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Okay, I'll now put it. Councillor Hamilton, I assume you don't wish to close the debate. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CP8/23, challenged by Councillor Luxford and moved. Councillor Chappell?
Second.
Sorry. Councillor, I'm very tired, my apologies. Councillor Luxford, could you please outline what it is that you're moving?
I'll be moving as per the recommendation on the business paper.
Thank you. Councillor Hay as the seconder. Thank you very much. Councillor Luxford, you have the floor.
Moving as per the recommendation. I'm glad that we will still be engaging with supermarkets to try and find something for Kensington. This has been an ongoing debacle, saga, for more than 20 years, I think, trying to get a supermarket back in Kensington, and previous West Ward councillor tried very hard, but it didn't happen, and we're still, some years after he's not in council anymore, still trying to do the same thing. I hope that we can be successful, but with K2K going the way that it has, I'm not really sure that we will be successful, but I'm still living in hope. So I am glad we will still continue to engage, and maybe we will snag one of the supermarkets to come our way.
Thank you, Councillor Luxford. Councillor Hay as the seconder.
Thank you. When I was running for Randwick Council, I noticed that there were over 70 shops in Kensington and Kingsford that were boarded up, disused or empty. retail across Kensington and Kingsford was hit very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Bringing back Main Street atmosphere is one of the main goals of my first term in office. As this report correctly notes, over $300 million is being lost in sales every year because residents living in Kensington and Kingsford are shopping for their groceries outside their suburb. As we all know in our daily lives, we travel to a large supermarket for our groceries. Larger supermarkets tend to have more range and lower prices, and we all do what we can to keep down the cost of living. The same is true for every single resident of Kensington and Kingsford. Furthermore, the supermarket helps every business around it, because when we get our groceries, we often go to the business next door and get a lunch or a haircut. I've always said that supermarkets will bring the Anzac Parade Main Street back to life and get those boarded up shops open again. When I talk to Kensington specifically, across just 5 addresses in various stages of being constructed, there have already been approved student housing of exactly 1,800 rooms with only 57 parking spaces. And most of those parking spaces are reserved for a shop owner. Even on the generous assumption that it's 1 student per room, that there's going to soon be over exactly 1,800 additional local residents who do not have a parking space and do not have a supermarket within easy walking distance. We do not have much on-street parking left. Are we expecting all of those new residents to walk over 1 kilometre to Randwick or Zetland to do their weekly shopping? No, and we don't want to force them to buy their groceries online either. We want to return Kensington back into being a vibrant hub of activity with everything reasonably available in walking distance. As everyone here knows, I strongly disapprove of these new developments, but they were approved before I was elected and it's too late to stop them. That means our only way forward is to make Kensington a place where new residents can live feasibly in a car-free way. The question in front of us now is simple. How can we make it happen? I'm sure that all 3 of Aldi's, Coles and Woolworths will be willing and able to move into a 2,000 plus square metre site if one was available. I don't have a preference which major chain takes up any site. But the problem isn't usually with the supermarket chains. It has typically been the developers don't include larger lots in their building plans. Anson Group now own many properties between Peters and Kensington and Duke Street, namely 77 to 103 Anzac Parade and 59A to 71 Baronia Street. We have in front of us a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get a proper supermarket into the heart of Kensington. Let's not lose this chance. I'm worried that if we relax planning controls to allow a supermarket, then a developer could claim that they don't have a prospective tenant and break a large lot into smaller spaces. This proposal will start a Main Street program which will analyse performance of the centre as a whole, look at the pedestrian experience and the nature of the retail experience of visitors to the centre, and determine the types and level of economic activity. That's how we make Kensington a livable centre for existing residents and the incoming who will live in the student housing. Thanks very much, and I recommend we all vote for the motion.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Luxford to close the debate. No, we shall now put it. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CS 13/23, response to notice of motion from Councillor Luxford, council support for the Bins for Bloke Health campaign. Moved Councillor Luxford, seconded by Councillor Burst. Councillor Luxford, could you please move the motion?
Yeah, so I would like to move this as per the recommendation on the business paper. And I'm extremely pleased that finally the report has come back, and it's only taken a little while, but that we are actually supporting this great campaign. It's extremely important for loads of people. It's something that just doesn't affect older people, it affects younger people as well. And people that have these sorts of issues and need to have a bathroom that is equipped, when they know that they are the way they are, they tend to not go out, they tend to not leave their homes, because more than likely there isn't an equipped bathroom for blokes, and it's restrictive to their well-being and their welfare. So I'm extremely pleased that we finally are doing something with this, and I hope that the relevant officers will contact the Bins for Blokes people, because they were in contact with me the other day, I just didn't have time to get them here tonight to support this, but they are happy to support us with whatever we need to indicate. There are bins for blokes in toilets and help with our general campaign. So I'm extremely pleased and thank the council officers that have done this for us.
Thank you. Councillor Burst is the seconder. I'll then go to Councillor D'Souza.
I reserve the right.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza.
Mr. Mayor, it's so important to build an inclusive council. And this wonderful motion put forward by Councillor Luxford does just that. It helps to build that sense of community we're so proud of. As a man getting to that stage of life, it's important that we have visionaries like Councillor Luxford who looks forward and accommodates people like me one day. So I fully support it. Not only just support it, I commend her on showing leadership on this particular issue. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor D'Souza. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Luxford to close the debate. Thank you very much. All those in favour? And those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CC 6/23, feasibility of live screenings of the Matildas 2023 World Cup games at a council venue, challenged by Councillor Rosenfeld. Councillor Rosenfeld, could you please outline what it is that you're moving, and then I will call for a seconder.
Okay, if David can add point C, yes, I sent him earlier. I fully support that we're going to show the Matildas games. No secret that I am a fan of football. Extraordinary how women's football has grown in popularity both in Australia and around the world in such a short space of time. The only thing is, this morning I was reading an article on the Daily Telegraph online where Mayor Darcy Byrne mentioned that he's got some concerns with regards to FIFA, one, allowing this, and B, the fees that FIFA may be looking to charge for this being quite a bit higher than at the World Cup. And this is possibly because when we host, or the host of a major FIFA event tends to have a live site. So basically I asked for an additional point to be put in for council to contact FIFA and to find out how we apply for the rights to live stream and share with them our proposed location of Heffron Park. Advise FIFA that the proximity would not impact FIFA's live sites, because they'll tend to be in the city, Tumbalong Park more than likely, and that Randwick Council won't charge a fee, and the ticketing measures are for just to control attendances. So there's no commercial competition. So I'd like to just add C to that, but I fully support the concept, and to grow football popularity is music to me. So please support this amendment.
Councillor Hamilton is the seconder. I will then go to Councillor Olive. Are there any other speakers just to put? Councillor Olive, Councillor Luxford did actually indicate that she did wish. Well, she did indicate. I wasn't sure the intention behind it. First, I'll then go to Councillor Luxford, then to you. Councillor Hamilton as the seconder, as well as Councillor Chappell.
I reserve my right.
Okay. Councillor Luxford.
As a seconder of Councillor Chappell's initial motion, I'm pleased again that we've actually got something happening here. It's great to see, and hopefully we won't have a problem with FIFA, and we will be able to move forward with showing some of the games or all of the games or wherever we end up of the Matildas. And the Matildas are screaming along at the moment. I think they're probably one of Australia's favourite sporting teams right now, having knocked off England the other day. Yep. So we're in with a fair chance. So there is a great population in Randwick City of female football players. The game is growing within the female sphere, and Australia has produced some of the best female players in the world, and we want to continue doing so. So by promoting these games and promoting football in general, I think we're on the right track. So thank you again to the relevant officers who have been able to pull up this report for us, and a wonderful recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Olive. I'll then go to Councillor Chapel. Councillor Olive.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to the Women's World Cup. I think it'll be a great spectacle, and I just am very enthusiastic about it. In terms of the recommendation, I would really like council to take another look at option B, rather than the option that they actually chose. Option B was to use the screen, at Heffron on the sports field, and I assume I will ask this as a question: would that be cheaper if we had used that screen rather than had to rent, all the other screens? That part of this, but the reason why I'm putting option B forward is that when you do the math, that down here, it says that the field is planned to be utilised 25 to 30 hours per week in total to prevent damage, with South's usage at about 21 hours of these a week. Given there will be 7 screenings during only a 4-week period, this would push it up over the recommended 30 hours. Well, if you say 4 hours per game, which if you turn over to the maximum time, any staffing will be there, official on-site staff, 4 hours times 7 is 28. But if you difference 30, 21 from 30, you get 9, 4 9s are 36. So obviously doesn't take you over the 30-hour mark. So I've had feedback that that's not really the reason why option B wasn't included. The real reason why option B wasn't included was because South didn't want it. And the reason why, they say, well, having that many people might damage the field. Well, we're going to have a block party, it's going on for much longer on turf, and that doesn't seem to be a problem there. But, I think that South naturally, as a league side, they're not going to give, football any support. They're going to say that. They're not going. So I think that council staff should be doing their own due diligence on this, and looking to see whether option B is a possibility. So I would rather that council staff research this a little bit further and then make a decision as to where it should be held.
Thank you. Councillor Chapel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, I echo Councillor Olive's concerns about the lack of access to the Heffron Centre, but to be honest, my main question is, I know Inner West is having theirs at Enmore Park, which seems like a very nice vibe, and I was wondering why we hadn't considered Arthur Burn or down at Grant Reserve, for instance, which would also reduce the conflict that we're currently going to have with the users of the synthetic soccer field.
Just a point of order. In the article today, Darcy Byrne actually stated that they haven't decided where they're going to do it yet. They mentioned Henson Park and maybe Leichhardt Oval and some other possibilities.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. It's not strictly a point of order, but we will continue through. Councillor Chapel, can I just confirm, was that a question through to the relevant officer?
It was a question.
Thank
yes.
you. Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council officers did consider a number of suitable locations for this event when they were drafting this report. Arthur Burn Reserve was one of the locations that was scoped. However, given the amenity and infrastructure in that location, it wasn't as suitable and would have been a lot more expensive given its access to amenity, lighting, and other sort of requirements to hold this event. Heffron Park is the most suitable because it's consistent with the use for this type of event in terms of having all the infrastructure and parking. The grant reserve was not considered because the other venues that were scoped in the report were more suitable.
Is that a question from Councillor Olive?
Yes, I suppose, sort of reframing what I said as a question, why wasn't option B considered, please?
Thank you. Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Option B was considered, and to your question before around costs, there would have been a saving in the screen cost. However, there would have been other additional costs that would have been, required in terms of using contractors and things like that for waste. Aside from the hours of use, which I can understand was a little bit confusing in the report, council officers considered that the Heffron synthetic pitch was the more preferable location to hold this kind of event in terms of it being fenced, close to amenity, with lighting, ability for undercover seating, and also for ability to add on. So having food trucks and for families to be able to access the other public spaces as well.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Okay, thank you. Councillor Rosenfeld, do you wish to close the debate? No. Okay, we will now put the motion as amended. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CC7/23 McKean Street Plaza, challenged by Councillor Pandolfini. Councillor Pandolfini, could you please outline what it is that you are moving? McKean Plaza, I did. No? I have Councillor Pandolfini.
I just wanted to move it as per the recommendation on the business paper and commit. What page is that? 49.
49.
Yeah, thank you. I'll second it. Sorry.
I was going to give Councillor Rosenfeld the opportunity, but Councillor Veach jumped in unless you'd like to waive it. Councillor Rosenfeld is more than welcome to second it.
Can I please flag an amendment?
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Pandolfini.
Yeah, I just wanted to move it as per the business paper and also commend the report. It has been incredibly thorough research activity as well as activation of this space. I'm really pleased to see that it's actually responding to significant community requests for more liveliness and activation in the area. A lot of families, young people, youth, and businesses in the area are benefiting from this, and I was very disappointed to hear some of the other councillors not wanting to support such a recommendation when we have such amazing research here, considering the expenditure of $733,000 compared to many millions of dollars that is often waved through at council meetings without question. So I would like to commend that motion. Thank you.
Before I move to hold on, thank you. Before we move to the seconder on this particular report, I would just like to kindly remind councillors to keep their remarks to the substantive matters rather than their views as to the particular intentions or not when not stated by other councillors. Councillor Rosenfeld, could you please speak to the motion? Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Yep, I fully support the motion. Majority of people were in favour. Not everyone's going to be in favour. That's part of life. I still read all the comments that were against and noted them. Let's make this permanent. It makes most sense to make it permanent economically. Makes most sense to make it permanent. And as a famous person once said, if not us, who? If not now, when? Let's make it happen.
Thank
Can
you.
I please?
Councillor Chappell, could you please outline what it is that you are seeking, what the amendment that you seek to move?
So it should just be on the screen now. It's very, very minor. I'm just reading through the comments. Quite a large number of people mentioned tree planting in the plaza, which isn't actually canvassed in the text below. And it does seem like an obvious oversight in terms of making the space feel coherent. So I just wanted to put in consideration of tree planting. Council staff may decide that that's not appropriate for the site, but there are already some tuckaroos down there. Maybe we could put in some other trees down there and provide some nice shade for the play area.
Before I call for a second, Councillor Pandolfini, can I please query whether or not you accept the proposed amendment?
I do.
Thank you. It now gets incorporated into the motion moved. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor... Oh, very close. Councillor Sand.
Mr. Mayor, just a question. If anyone who is voting yes on this, if you know any of the businesses or have a relationship with any of the businesses, should you declare it?
Councillors, your obligations around disclosures are contained in the code, Councillor Code of Conduct. I may momentarily pause to seek advice from the General Manager. My general understanding is the management of disclosures is a matter for individual councillors to the General Manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. You're correct. It's the management of individual disclosures is a matter for individual councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Pandolfini, oh no, you don't wish to close the debate. I'll now go to a vote. All those in favour, all those in favour of the motion as moved? Aye. Aye. All those against? Yay. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. Is that a request for your name to be recorded against in the minutes? Okay, Councillor Seb has requested that his name is contained as voting against in the minutes. I've seen that practice occur by councillors on many occasions. Anyway, we move on. There being no Director of Corporate Service reports, NM 21/23, notice of motion from Councillor McCafferty, Learner Driver Training, Keys to Drive Program. Moved Councillor McCafferty, seconded by Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this program, the Learn to Drive, I only became aware of it a couple of weeks ago when one of my local residents came to me and said, look, this is really terrible. Is there something that council could do about this? The federal government has, I've now realised, been providing this Learn to Drive single lesson with a accredited driving instructor for P-platers since 2010 when it was introduced by the Rudd government. It has, from what I can gather, given young people who are seeking their P-plates a great deal of confidence when they've been learning with family members, and that to actually learn and have a single lesson with a driving instructor around this program, this Learn to Drive program that has been accredited by the Australian Automobile Association, the NRMA and all of those member bodies, to have the confidence that comes out of that and then face going for your P-plates or your licence, I understand has really enhanced the lives of many, many people and made the duty of the supervising instructor, whether it's an older relative or a parent, much easier for young people. I think given that our Randwick LGA young people are our most precious resource, anything we can do to fill this gap now that the federal government has stepped away from this space would be a helpful addition to what we already do in the support we provide to learner drivers with the support of Transport for New South Wales. I think we're also likely to get support from the from Services New South Wales now that this program has been phased out by the feds, And I encourage you to support this motion because I think it really is important for our young people and indeed for the parents that live within our LGA.
Councillor Hamilton had already seconded. Councillor Hamilton is the seconder, and then I'll go to Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you. I'll just offer up a tongue-in-cheek position of interest. My 17-year-old is currently on her L's, second child going through it. And I would say that this would also be helpful for older children who are on their open licence to support as well. I particularly like the idea of offering support to supervisors of L-plate drivers. It's been a really long time since I sat through my licence, and so you do really need to read the book and make sure that you're giving them the right instructions as they go. My daughter will be finished before this initiative will come into place, so that's why it's non-significant and non-pecuniary on my part. So I'm happy to support this, second it, and also vote on it. Additionally, what I do find is that when you are teaching a 17-year-old or a child, getting them on their L's, the hours, 150 hours, is a lot of hours. And so you can't put them all through lessons. That's way too expensive. And so you do find yourself, and anyone else who is available will sit in with them so that you can get them through their licence. So anything that will help, I think, is fantastic, and any support that we can provide is also fantastic. The other thing that I would like to say is also, due to COVID, there is a massive backlog. So my daughter was quoted as getting her open Ps in 5 years' time because of the fact that there was such a wait to get through your Ls, but also to get through to your first Ps. So any kind of help that we can provide to get the backlog out of the way and get kids up and running on the cars and getting out there, that'd be great.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, could you just note in the minutes the non-significant, non-pecuniary declaration, tongue-in-cheek, by Councillor Hamilton? Thank you. Councillor Veach will also. Councillor D'Souza. No. Councillor D'Souza.
Any program that saves lives will always win my support. It's a wonderful initiative. Not so long I went to Shua, which was to remember the Holocaust victims. I think it was a few days ago, wasn't it, Daniel? And one of the things Thomas Keneally said, and he did say it to me, but in his book as well, if you save just one life, you save the world. So I'm very supportive of this. Anything that'll help our young people with education, learning, safety, improving, engage, inspire, inform. They were the words he mentioned to me when we talked about Schindler's Ark or Schindler's List. So I fully support this, and thank you, Council, for bringing this to Council's attention.
Thank you. Are there any for Councillor Hay?
Just very quickly, a member of my family is also on their L's, and I will declare not significant, not pecuniary interest, and I will be voting in the matter.
Councillor Burst.
I will certainly be supporting this motion. I think looking after young drivers and their safety is of paramount, and it is disappointing that the Albanese Labor federal government has turned their back on the safety of kids in this area. So it's disappointing that they've dropped it as a policy. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor McCafferty, do you wish to close the debate? Thank you very much. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to NM 22/23 from Councillor Hay. Councillor Hay, could you please move your motion?
Yes. I move the motion, as per what's written on the business paper. I'd like everyone to quickly take a look at the picture. You see, C Street is quite easily could have once been a 6-lane highway. It did have trams going down the centre of the street many years ago. But not only are trams no longer going down there, we have finished the Kingsford Light Rail, and there is no it's not reasonably foreseeable that the light rail will ever want to go down the centre of C Street again. This leaves an unnaturally wide street, which I would like to say, you know what, let's see if we can give some of this back to the community as parkland. Now, if you take a look at Kingsford, there's only 2 named parks. You've got Shore Reserve and Kensington Rotary Reserve. They could, you could, about the size of a house, and you've got a few unnamed reserves on Jake Street and in the median strip of Anzac Parade. And of course, if the light rail is ever extended, we will lose the parkland that is the median strip of Anzac Parade in a light rail extension. So the people of Kensington, people of Kingsford are in a growing community as well. There has been a lot of development in the area, so additional park space would be great to see. Now, I included a little bit of the biography of John C. there as well. He's the mayor of Randwick who became Premier of New South Wales. I'm not being prescriptive in whether or not this will definitely turn into a park. At this stage, we're only asking to see whether or not we can build a park in the middle of the street. But we can use the holding title of John C. Park or something. It'd be good to, seeing as he was the mayor who, you know, it'd be good to have something, another memorial or something in his name. And that's the motion. Thank you very much.
Councillor Luxford is the seconder.
Yeah, I'd just like to commend Councillor Hay on this. C Street is a wide street, so I would hope that we seek what's the word? The correct, the council officers can see what they can do there without jeopardising parking for our residents as well, because there are a number of unit blocks and townhouse complexes in that street, but it would be nice to see some more trees and that around, so I commend the motion.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I take it that Councillor Hay doesn't wish to close the debate. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to NM 23/23, notice of motion from Councillor Hamilton, an update on K2K.
Thank you. 23/23. I was born on the 23rd. Okay, so I put this forward because I believe that with a majority of new councillors joining in this term, and I would even reference the return of a former general manager who has good knowledge of this entire initiative, it would be ideal and a perfect time for us to gather a full report on the background, what's been happening, and also where we're going with this, so that everyone has a full understanding, and each time these initiatives and anything related to K2K comes up, we at least have more information within ourselves to understand what we should or shouldn't vote for or against. So it really is simple as that. It's only a short sentence because I think it's clear exactly what I'm asking for, and it didn't need a big background, because I am hoping that we will gather that background once the council staff action this. So I ask for your support so that we can see this information coming back to us.
Thank you. I actually had a call from Councillor Luxford to second it about a minute ago. Councillor Luxford.
Yeah, I commend this motion. We do need to know where we are going with K2K. K2K has not, as I've said many times before, turned out the way it was ever meant to be. We've just decimated 2 suburbs with a light rail going right down the middle, and with all the student accommodation that is now being built around Kensington, it is no longer a family-friendly suburb or garden suburb that it once was. We have the issue with the supermarket, as I alluded to, has been going on for 20 years. When I was growing up in Kensington, we had 2 supermarkets, and they were large, we lost those to development, and the developers would not put supermarkets back in, and the best we could get was a little small food works down the road, which nobody goes to now because they can't park, they can't stop by there, and it's the poor man's dying in his shop. As a couple of his workers who had worked there for years now work in Coles at East Village. So yeah, I too want to know where we are going, because we are definitely not heading where we were supposed to be, and I don't see much hope. So I commend Councillor Hamilton's request, because I too want to know where we are going.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza.
Mr. Mayor, I was the mayor at the time K2K came into being and was starting to be implemented. I've always believed in K2K. I've always believed in the competition we had, and I was very proud that the council was courageous enough to get international people involved to get a good outcome. Now, there's an old saying, without vision, the people perish. K2K gave this council a visionary plan in how we could make things better. I too am looking forward to getting some feedback. That's how good groups work. We put out plans, we make decisions, but at the end of the day, you need to assess how you're moving forward, or if you're moving forward. So yes, this motion has my full support. Coming back to the supermarket, we definitely need more in Kingsford, but there's a particularly good IGA there, I think, isn't there? I've been there myself.
Councillors, the council will be heard in silence. Thank you. Please continue, Councillor D'Souza.
I say. And no, that's particularly good. Being a family business, I often go there to support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, we will now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to NM 24/23, Notice of Motion from Councillor Veach, Culture, Inclusion and Diversity Reporting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, look, there's been a lot of motions and reports and actions on council over the years to support inclusion in our community, to support, our incredible First Nations community, to increase access for people with disability. We've recently increased funding for our International Women's Day Art Prize. These types of conversations are something that we're having at almost every single council meeting. And just at the end of this week, we'll also be running the amazing Southeast Block Party with Kobe D and other performers. And tonight, unfortunately, we've all missed it, but there was an event on Autism Awareness Week, which was, I think, at the Margaret Martin Library, which would have been terrific. So, I'm really proud of Council's record on increasing inclusion and respecting all of the diverse members of our community. So I think it's sort of important that we kind of try to walk the talk. There's a lot of detail in this motion. We get these reports at Local Government New South Wales. It is clearly a much smaller organisation, but we get those reports at every board meeting, which happens every alternate month, every full board meeting. There is literally no way you can identify any of the staff. It's literally just mostly a series of tables with just the data on numbers and percentages. However, it is interesting to sort of see. In terms of things like the exit interview feedback, that's just kind of some very general summarised comments. It's often saying something like, this person left because they're moving interstate, or something like that. Again, clearly not identifying any staff whatsoever.
but it does include information on the organisation's gender pay gap, and so on, and sort of the types of sort of management or non-managed positions, casual, permanent and part-time work, and so on. I think it would be really useful as a council body to have this information. It was certainly something that came up in the previous year. This is in no way implying that there is any staff, dissatisfaction whatsoever with the staff, but there is literally no other kind of reasonable way for councillors to be aware of this without receiving this reports. Otherwise, hopefully we're not hearing anything, but it would just be kind of rumours and so on. So this is not what this is about. It's hopefully communicating to both us and to the residents of our LGA where we're going, how we're tracking, if we need to improve. There's no way we can sort of improve outcomes in terms of employment for people with disability, improving the gender pay gap, or hopefully getting more First Nations members of our community employed on council if we don't know. So I really urge you to support this. It's not intended to cast, a detailed eye on any individual members. It's literally just getting the basic data. And hopefully once that's set up, it will be a relatively simple exercise to do those minor updates as the reports come in. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I go to the question, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Pandolfini. Councillor Pandolfini, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I just would also like to commend this motion. It would be so wonderful, I know that there are many of our male councillors who support, things like International Women's Day and come along and do really support the inclusion and diversity in this council. And I'm sure that they would want to see and, be able to refer to, what stats we have. So I just also have a quick question to the relevant officer or the general manager. Is this something that is being standardised, do you think, across councils? I know that many companies and corporate companies do this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Many councils actually do some form of culture report and to provide the information for the elected body. They normally do it in briefing sessions for the councillors to go through, so the councillors can then discuss those particular issues to make sure that, and I know Councillor Veach is at length to say not to identify an event, just to make sure that no staff member can be identified, because I have to make sure the confidentiality of the staff is protected at all times. So it's normally done in a confidential briefing session that those councils do, but this type of information is becoming more normal for local government.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Councillor D'Souza, then I have Councillor Chappell, then I have Councillor Sid.
Actually, it was a similar question to what the Deputy Mayor put forward, so I've got the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chappell. And then
All good.
I'll go to Chappell, Sid, Veach.
I'm all good.
Chappell, Sid, Veach. You're fine? Okay, Sid. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to ask if I can move a small amendment, and I'll ask firstly because it's so small that if the mover will accept it, Mr. Kelly will bring it up. It's virtually, I can read it out. Oh, there it is. 1 stays exactly the same. It just becomes point 2 is to hold a biannual briefing to councillors to identify the trends exactly, and A to H stays the same. So all the data from A to H gets collected. I just thought that maybe in the motion it just got lost whether what the outcomes would be, and I'd rather get all the data that you've asked for, and even if it works out to be even a workshop. So if you do it biannually, not every quarter, biannually we'd sit there, get a briefing from the General Manager, all the data given to us, and we can discuss it and why this is happening and why not this is happening, rather than a quarterly report that may just come as a report and we go home and we have to make the most of it ourselves. I'd rather discuss it with all the council officers and do it as a proper briefing, maybe even a day like this, maybe even a workshop. But you can't do that all the time, so just biannually to do that so that we can get more out of the data and see where we're trending and where we're not trending, etc. So I totally agree with what you're asking for. I just think it'd be better to talk about.
Okay, so what I'm just going to do, the amendments moved, Councillor said, seconded by Burst. Prior to going to the seconder or asking Councillor Veitch if she accepts it, a point of clarification from the General Manager, the interpretation of the proposed amendment, would that include papers which would accompany the confidential briefing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it would, and that's certainly been my experience on the former council. We've provided that information to the councillors in writing.
Thank you. Councillor Veitch, do you accept the amendment? Councillor Veitch, your question. Councillor Veitch, your question, and then I'll go to Councillor Burst as the seconder of the amendment. Councillor Veitch.
I'm sorry, your mic isn't on.
It is now.
In terms of the report through to the relevant officer, in terms of the motion as it appears on the business paper, which is in essence for it to appear on the council business papers as a public report. However, would there be the potential for the General Manager, if they believed that there would be information in any particular report, you know, that was potentially identifying a staff person, to bring that forward as a confidential report?
Through to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we could certainly do that.
Thank you. Councillor Veitch, do you accept or reject the amendment?
Yeah, okay, I'll accept the amendment.
Thank you. The amendment now gets incorporated into the motion. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, we'll now put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Declare that carried. We now move to Notice of Rescission Motion NR2/23. Moved Councillors Olive, Pandolfini and Nielsen. Thank you. The procedure in dealing with a rescission motion is that councillors will first vote as to whether or not it is considered as rescinded, and then if it is rescinded, there will be debate on the proposed substantive motion to be moved. So I will now call councillors that NR2/23 be rescinded. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, thank you. I declare the rescission motion carried. Okay, thank you. Councillor Olive, could you please move your motion?
Okay, I will move this motion that councillors receive a briefing on the for and against case before deciding to write a letter of support for the proposal. But that's all I'm going to say, because I don't think I will support that. I think I will vote against the motion. I mean, so if just a question, if that is the case, if this motion is lost, then it just means that the original motion is rescinded and then it doesn't go forward. No, but I'm confused then. So what did we?
Seeking clarification from the General Manager, Councillor Olive has queried, in the event that the motion that he is now moving is lost, what occurs?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, you have now rescinded your previous motion. So there is actually nothing on the books for this, and that's why there's always a proposed intended motion to come forward, which you've done now. And then should this be defeated and there's nothing on the books, this matter stops.
So there will be no letter and there will be no... Okay, so I will put it forward and, so someone, but I'm going to vote against it.
Are there any further speakers? Oh, I need a seconder. I need a seconder for the motion. Seconded, Councillor D'Souza. The motion has moved, which Councillor Olive has told the meeting that he intends to vote against, is that councillors receive a briefing on the for and against case before deciding on whether or not to write a letter of support. The advice from the General Manager is in the event that the motion as moved by Councillor Olive is lost, the matter is rescinded with no further business before Council in order to proceed, including the writing of the letter or not. Are there any further speakers?
Yes, I'm going to move the rescission motion as proposed here. That
So it's been done. So the rescission's been carried. Councillor Olive is moving the motion.
Yes.
Okay.
He has decided not to move anything. So I'm moving what is put here for us to move that councillors receive a briefing on the for and against case before deciding whether to write a letter of support for this proposal. I'm quite confident, councillors, that when you are given the for and against case, there is no way any of you are going to be supporting this proposal going forward. However, I do think it's important that we do know the reasons why we should not be supporting this, and I think that we owe it to our residents to know the reasons for and against.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza, as the seconder of the motion moved, Olive D'Souza. Councillor D'Souza, could you please speak to the motion which is in front of us as the seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to second what Councillor Oliver said, but what Councillor Nielsen has said is further buttressed what I think Councillor Olive wanted to put forward, so I fully support it. I just leave it at that, but I think clarity was given by Councillor Nielsen, and she's right. There is, well, I don't know if she said it, but I think Mark said it, there is no direct benefit of this to our local community. What it'll do is, if anything, it'll create chaos. It'll create, now, I've actually researched this, not only I talked about sandpiper sharks being attracted to wrecks, etc. But in saying that, what my biggest concern is the pollution, the oil slick, the other, from the research I've done, it appears this isn't a very clean, basic sinking of a vessel. This is actually the start of a completely, in my view, negative process which will not benefit the local people. And I'm so glad the Precinct Committee has spoken, because at the end of the day, I've always believed in what their views are reflective of the community, but also I always believe ward councillors know best, and I think the ward councillors have spoken on this one.
Thank you. I will go to... Did Councillor Chappell, did you have your hand up on this?
Yes.
Yes, I'll go to
Please.
Councillor Chappell, then Councillor Veach.
Just briefly against the motion, I'm not inherently opposed to a before and against briefing for the reasons Councillor Nielsen has outlined, but even so, I think without the EIS available for the proposal, it would still not have all the information on the table, so I'm going to vote against.
Thank you. Councillor Veach.
Look, I have a question about this follow-up motions. It says that councillors receive a briefing on the for and against case before deciding whether to write a letter of support for this proposal. I mean, we can only decide on a letter of support for a proposal at a council meeting by vote. So does that mean this would then trigger a report back to council again following the briefing? It would have to. We can't decide something in a briefing. We can't decide to write a letter at a briefing. So it would have to come back to council. So if we vote on this, does that mean it's going to come back to council again?
Thank you. Question through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Samir. Yes.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers?
All right, sorry, I will. And I will, because I've heard some comments to the negative on this proposal, and I am completely for this proposal. I believe that what the Mayor had put forward was for us to offer a letter of support, which we know that Waverley have done and Wallara have done, and the government need to see that we are supportive of something like this before the group can actually move ahead with it. It has been a long time running.
Sorry, thank you. I will hear the point of order. Before I do, I'd just like to remind Councillor Pandolfini to outline the relevance to the Code of Meeting Practice. Councillor Pandolfini.
The points that are being made are unsubstantiated. So there's other additional councils did not actually supply letters of support as outlined.
That is not my understanding. Therefore, I rule that there is no point of order. Councillor Hamilton, could you please?
Thank you. Yes, in the last meeting, we heard from the relevant officer that there was, in fact, letters of support from Wallara and Waverley, and so calling a point of order to try to debunk fact is not right. What I want to turn my particular points toward are the fact that this will take a very long time. It already has taken a very long time. And I would give credit to all those involved in this initiative, the fact that they have hung in there all this time. They've reached out to all the different organisations, they've reached out to universities, and as the Speaker, Sam Baxter, said tonight, these are people that love the environment. They're there to enjoy all of its beauty. They're not there to ruin it. They're not there to do anything negative to it whatsoever. In fact, what they want to do is they want to continue to promote the hobby, and for a lot of them, it's their career that they love to enjoy. So I don't think that we should try and mar them as people who are environmental or doing any damage to the local area or anything like that. I believe it's the opposite. And so we will see a number of initiatives that we might not even think of. We might not even think of the economic benefits that the area of Coogee will get because we haven't really embraced an adventure organisation such as this in the past so much. So we do have one, the Paddy Dive group down there in Coogee, and we see them heading out to Gordons Bay and all the rest of it. But once something like this happens, I think what we will see is a shift in interest in the local area, and we'll see a new dynamic coming into the area. So we could see more adventure type tourists, and I believe that would be a really good thing. And we don't need to be stale and boring and stay the same. It's nice.
I think that we've diverted from the point here, and also we're starting to call names around to people that aren't voting for this motion. So I think it's a little bit out of line.
Thank you, councillors. I'd like to remind everyone to remain to the substantive motion and noting the fact that we have to date made excellent time. Just like to draw. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Hamilton, have you concluded your remarks?
No, I haven't. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep. So thanks. Not a point of order. And what I was just pointing out that we don't want things to be stale and boring. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not calling anyone names. I'm talking about moving forward, being progressive, and also inviting businesses to take up opportunities in our local area, offshore, onshore, and this is an exciting thing. And I'm an ex-Navy person, as I've mentioned before, and I find this whole project as a really exciting prospect.
Sorry,
I closed my remarks.
Okay.
I think they were very well.
Councillor Hamilton has concluded her remarks. Councillor Olive to close the debate.
Yes, if we looked at the
Councillor Olive, your microphone. Thank you.
If we looked at the original letter which was proposed to be written, there was no accompanying EI statement. It was just a proposal of support. It was just a letter of support. And this seems to be the strategy of those proposing this. Over a 10-year period, they say how many signatures they've collected. Over a 10-year period, you should be able to get a lot of signatures. But what they've done is they've included people like, or groups like the Coogee Precinct, and said that they're, what do they call it? They say, no concerns raised. Well, there are obviously concerns there, but they didn't take it seriously, so they didn't raise any. Also, the Clovelly and Coogee surf clubs. It says no concern. They sent them letters. They didn't reply, but they said no concerns raised.
Councillor Olive, can I just interrupt? Councillor, just hold on. Councillor Olive. Thank you. Under the Code of Meeting Practice, councillors cannot impute the reputation of other councillors.
I didn't.
No, just hold on, I haven't finished. Thank you. Of other councillors in giving their remarks. All councillors around this table have the opportunity in order to speak and in order to, often call other points of orders. In this instance, your remarks refer to a group which does not have the ability to respond in the way in which they've progressed. So what I would kindly do is I would ask that you keep your remarks to the substantive motion as much as possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm addressing this because if after the briefing, it's decided that a report it follows that there will be a report and it will come back to council again. We will have to make this decision again about writing a letter of support. So I'm addressing that part of the what's likely to happen if this motion is passed. I was referring to the business case, which is online by the proposers of this particular project, and it is written in that section there that they tried to make contact with the surf club, Coogee Surf Club, Clovelly Surf Club, but there was no response, and they've designated that as no concerns raised. They designated.
The people here on my left have talked all the way through my speech and all the way through Michael Oliver's. I can't hear him.
Okay, hold on. Thank you. Hold on. Thank you. Hold on. Councillor Hamilton has raised a point of order that councillors are talking around the horseshoe and has stated that she can't actually hear the speaker. I'd like to remind councillors that all councillors will be heard in silence. Councillor Veach, could you please raise your point of order as it relates to the Code of Meeting Practice? If you seek to ask a question that is during the debate, Councillor Olive is closing the debate. So before you do, I'd like to seek clarification from the General Manager if there is the opportunity to do so at this particular point, when Councillor Olive is closing the debate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, you can't actually ask a question when the Mayor's called for the debate to be closed by the removal of the original motion.
Okay. How can you withdraw the moving of something as you were closing the debate? You can't do it.
You didn't listen to what he said in the first instance.
Councillor Olive is in the middle of speaking and closing the debate. Councillor Olive, could you please close the debate? Thank you.
I actually moved this motion, but said that I was going to vote against it, and I am closing the debate.
Councillors, thank you. Councillors, you're actually coaching a fellow councillor as to what they do or do not wish to do. Councillor Olive, because I have observed the behaviour and I'm ruling on what you're actually doing. It's obvious. Councillor Olive, to close the debate. Thank you very much.
Okay, I believe if this letter goes forward, it does nothing to tackle the EI, the environmental impacts, what could possibly happen. I think all the costs will be Coogie's and all the benefits will go elsewhere. Thank you. I close the debate.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there's been a call for a division. Okay, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, and the Mayor. All those against? All those against? Thank you. Councillor Pandolfini, Nielsen, Veach, Chappell, Olive, Wilson, and D'Souza. I declare the motion carried. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 9:15. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone.